everyone, welcome to CNBC TV 18's special show, Air Traffic Alert. I'm Shireen Bhan. Are you a frequent flyer who needs to travel in and out of cities for business purposes? Or are you a travel enthusiast who likes exploring places in India? More importantly, are you tired of frequent flight delays? If your answer is yes, well, then perhaps there is something more that you need to prepare for. Aviation companies are busy expanding their fleet strength in a bid to meet the growing demand in the sector, and the result is that air traffic is getting crammed. Ashpreet Sethi and Arib Sherwani get you more in this special report.
It's been a perfect takeoff for the Indian aviation sector, growing strongly at around 25% every year for the last 3 years. And while big airlines like SpiceJet and Indigo go on a shopping spree adding to their fleet, infrastructure is woefully lagging and poses a serious threat to the dream run. The fallout is showing, with delays of up to 45 minutes to 1 hour becoming common, testing the patience of passengers in busy cities like Delhi and Mumbai. Routine issues of congestion are compounded by staff constraints in the view of experts. Again, with one aircraft pressed into service for 6 to 7 flights each day, delays are unavoidable. But the Airports Authority of India counter the issues raised around staff shortage. While the available staff strength remains short, they blame the airlines for missing out on the slotted time, which cascade to more delays. The authority says it's a difficult task to adjust timings in places like Delhi with restrictive air movement. For their part, the airline industry has pleaded for a long-term vision plan for India's aviation sector, clearly earmarking for airport capacity requirements. Key players have pointed to the fuel wasted for diversions or circling before they are cleared for landing. That alone costs as much as the price of one seat or even more. Airport operators are trying hard to keep pace. For instance, Delhi International Airport Limited has started executing its master plan, which includes adding terminals and a runway. For Mumbai, hopes appear bleak as work on the new airport may take as long as 8 years to complete. With FY18 expected to be the third consecutive year of domestic growth above 20%, experts at CAPA and KPMG say safety and security risks will also increase. And their verdict is that problems related to flight delays will continue in the near term. In New Delhi with Ashpreet Sethi, Arib Sherwani.
So what is the plan as far as upgrading infrastructure is concerned? What is the plan to decongest our airspaces to ensure that this high growth sector continues to see the kind of momentum that it's seen over the last few years? To discuss the flight path for India's high growth sector, the Indian aviation sector, joining us today is Jayant Sinha, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation. Also with us in a short while will be Kapil Kaul for the Centre for Asia Pacific Aviation, Dubey of KPMG, and Ajay Singh of SpiceJet. Mr. Sinha, I appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. If I could start by asking you, sir, there are several issues that were raised in that story that we just played out. I'm sure you're in the center of having to deal with what airlines are saying, what the Airports Authority is saying, and what the airport operators are saying. What do you make of the current situation, and where is the biggest bottleneck?
Well, first of all, Shireen, we have to recognize that these are good problems to have. It's extraordinary that we have a sector the size of the Indian aviation sector, with about 150 million passenger trips a year, about 1.4 trillion rupees in revenues, domestic revenues that is growing in volume terms at 22-23% a year, and in revenue terms over 10 or 12% a year. So it's extraordinary to have this great growth on such a large base. Now, when we do have this growth, we obviously have to do a lot of work to ensure that we build sufficient capacity, and most importantly, we ensure safety and security of passengers. So we have a whole stream of initiatives underway to be able to sustain this growth while at the same time protecting safety and security and ensuring passenger convenience. So we are busy with all of those, and I'm happy to get into those in detail.
Sir, may I request you then to get into details on what we can now expect to try and decongest, specifically the metro airports. There is also some talk at this point in time on the possibility of opening up airspace even further. So what is currently under the control of the defense services, perhaps there could be further liberalization. Is that on the anvil at all?
Well, before I get into adding more capacity, I just want to make a very, very clear point, which is that for us, safety and security come first, and we are not prepared to compromise in any way on either safety or security. So with that in mind, we obviously are doing a lot as far as capacity in our airports are concerned. Our airlines have done a terrific job in terms of adding capacity in the air, and of course, as you know, they have placed very large orders with the OEMs for airplanes, and so now it's our job to be able to add capacity in the airports as well as in terms of regional connectivity, whether it's metros, whether it's highways, whether it's light rail. In many of our cities, we have to think very carefully about regional connectivity as well. So we're looking at this in an integrated way. Now, with respect to the airports themselves, we already, as I said, have about 150 million passenger trips a year. And with growth at over 20% right now, it seems reasonable to expect that over the next 10 or 15 years, we will have a long-term growth rate of at least 10 or 12%, somewhere in that vicinity. So if you look forward over the next 15 years, it's quite feasible that we will have to triple airport capacity to be able to accommodate the surge in passenger traffic that we have. Now, when we triple airport capacity, we are looking at an investment of somewhere in the range of 2.5 to 3 lakh crores. And that's not counting the land acquisition costs. Simply in building all of these airports, we are going to have to make an investment in that range. The good news is that this is all self-funding because air travel pays for itself in terms of capacity addition. Now, to enable our airports to triple capacity, there are really 3 important ways in which we are doing that. First, we are looking at our existing terminals. So let's take Terminal 1 in Delhi or Terminal 3 in Mumbai, for instance, which are already quite crowded terminals. We are going through some very, very serious operational analyses to improve existing capacity. Second very important thing that we're doing is we are building new terminals altogether. We're building new terminals in Pune, we are building new terminals in Guwahati, we are about to add a new terminal in Delhi. So we are adding new terminals in existing airports to add additional capacity as well. And then third, we are building entirely new greenfield airports as well. So Mopa in Goa is going to be a new greenfield airport. Navi Mumbai will be a new greenfield airport. Pune is going to have a new greenfield airport. Guwahati is going to have a new greenfield airport. So in all these places, we are adding entirely new greenfield airports as well. And by combining all 3 measures, existing terminals, new terminals, and new greenfield airports, we are looking to, as I said, triple airport capacity over the next 10 or 15 years.
Okay. Mr. Sinha, thank you very much for articulating that flight path for us. I will come back to you in just a second. So if I may go across to Kapil Call. Kapil, the minister there articulating for us what the plan is in terms of tripling air capacity over the next decade to 15 years. But let me, ask you to take us through CAPA's FY18 aviation sector outlook report, because in the immediate term, it looks like there is going to be trouble on account of congestion.
Yes. First of all, good evening, Shreen. One is that most of the infrastructure planning that is being planned is in the design stage right now. And I agree with the minister that there is, I guess, heightened awareness at the ministry and highest level in the government that the infrastructure crisis is real. And my sense is that if we continue to have another 2 years of about 20% plus growth, we would see an unprecedented challenges across our system, both in air and ground. Most of the projects that are being planned, and I will go by one quickly. In the Delhi's 1D terminal will take about 3 years to build, and the infrastructure at 1D is already saturated. In fact, it's quite a harrowing experience to go through that airport. Nothing. So it has been left too late to go for development. Mumbai is saturated. Chennai has airside problem. Bangalore, by the time the new terminal comes, will face increasingly a difficult challenge, both in air and ground. Hyderabad is going to have a new terminal, but interim they're going to have a problem. And most of the AI airports, frankly, most of them are reaching their design stage, design capacity. Even if you do improvement, whether you change flow management, gates, technology, within the next 3 to 5 years, you will see an unprecedented changes across, unprecedented growth across airports, which will really challenge the infrastructure we have on ground. So the sense is that is the planning there? Yes. Is it sufficient? I would say no. Because what you need is a plan which can last a generation, 30, 35 years.
Okay.
Increasingly, it will be difficult to acquire land. it increasingly get difficult to do environmental clearances. Increasingly, it will get difficult to build excess infrastructure. So yes, I would think the government is aware, and what Mr. Sinha said, that's correct. But I think if you say that, do you need a long-term strategic viable plan on paper, is that there? I don't think so.
Okay, let me get Mr. Sinha to respond to that. Mr. Sinha, you just heard what Kapil Kaul had to say, that the infrastructure crisis is a real one at this point in time in the aviation sector, and that while you have charted out for us the long-term plan and the long-term vision in terms of capacity addition, what do we do in the interim? Because as he pointed out, a lot of the current airport infrastructure is already saturated. So what happens in the interim, sir?
No, we have a detailed plan for the 30 top airports that we have looked at for the next 15 years. Kapil is asking about 35 years. Well, we haven't looked at 35 years, but we have done detailed city-by-city forecasts for the next 15 years, and we have a very good sense of exactly where we need to add new terminals, where we need to add new greenfield airports. We have taken that information and we've sat down with the state governments and discussed with them where they will need to get new greenfield airports. And in fact, it is precisely through those discussions that the need for a new airport in Pune, the new airport in Guwahati, all of those have come up because of our detailed plans that we have already put together. Of course, it is indeed true that it takes a fair amount of time to actually build a new terminal, somewhere between 2 to 3 years, and it takes about 6 to 8 years from start to finish to build an entirely new greenfield airport. So it's very important to get started on that, which is of course what we're embarked on right now. And I am quite confident that with the support of the state governments which we are getting, we will in fact be able to build the necessary airports that we need to build. Remember that airports are also a tremendous economic engine. They create jobs, they enhance connectivity, they are a great driver of business. And so state governments are very, very enthusiastic about building airports and getting them connected up with the cities as well. So while Kapil paints a fairly, I would say, strong picture, if you will, or an aggressive picture in terms of what the challenges might be, I would say that you also have to take into account the fact that both central and state governments are fully aware of the challenges and are working together very, very determined fashion to be able to resolve these challenges.
Okay, Mr. Sinha, if I may also ask you, sir, one of course is the infrastructure side of the story, but when we talk about air traffic control as well, sir, what is the plan in the immediate term, in the medium term and in the long term, because that also seems to be now a bottleneck that the industry is faced with?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, Shireen, I don't think we are at the point right now where airspace has become the binding constraint. We have done a lot of work with the Air Force and the Defense Ministry. We've had outstanding cooperation from the Defense Ministry and particularly from the Defense Minister himself in making sure that we can open up airspace for new routes and for additional traffic. We've also had exemplary cooperation from the Defense Ministry in terms of opening up slots in airports like Goa and Pune, which are airports that we share with the Air Force. So we've expanded capacity there. We've been able to get land from them. We've been able to get slots from them. And I expect that the cooperation will continue. In addition, as you know, we have launched the Gagan satellite navigation system, which enables us to do airflow management in a far better way than could be done previously. So we are significantly adding to airspace capacity as we go along. All that being said, the reality, Shireen, is when you're growing 20% a year, capacity will continue to be an issue, and we have to work diligently and in a very methodical way to expand capacity along the entire chain, which includes air, it includes airport capacity, and it also includes the traffic side. I mean, as you know, getting in and out of our airports, anybody who's been through the Dhaula Kuan traffic jam knows what I'm talking about. So we have to look at connectivity across the board to ensure that people have a seamless and smooth experience. You know, one of the things things, for instance, that Kapil did not highlight, but I will speak about, is that we're looking at throughput in our airports very carefully. So the question is, can you get through security? Can you get through, sort of the showing of your boarding pass and so on in a far quicker way, so that we can get more people through our airports much more quickly. And there we've got some very exciting things we're working on now as far as digital boarding passes are concerned, Aadhaar integration is concerned, and so on, so that people have a very seamless and smooth experience through our airports.
When will we see this being rolled out, sir?
In Bangalore, we are already in the midst of an important trial where we are looking at using Aadhaar for biometric authentication, so you can get through security and you can get your boarding pass digitally. You don't ever have to print out your boarding pass. That is already happening in Bangalore. Hyderabad is experimenting with some interesting things. And as you know, there's a very major trial underway right now to see whether we can do away with stamping of both baggage and boarding passes. So there are all kinds of system-wide improvements we are looking at that will enable us to increase throughput.
All right, I'll come back to you again, Mr. Sinha, but let me go across to Ajay Singh, the Chairman and Managing Director of SpiceJet, also with us. Mr. Singh, thanks very much. What is the situation that airlines are facing today? Our understanding is that you lose between 2,000 and 3,000 rupees for every idle minute that you spend circling. What has been the impact as far as your expenses are concerned? Because crude and, of course, ATF is the biggest cost as far as airlines are concerned. And we've got Mr. Sinha here with us. What is it that you would like the government to do to bring all parties together to ensure that at least in the immediate term, while we talk about building out capacity and so on and so forth, in the immediate term, there is some relief from the pain that commuters are faced with?
I think the facts are well known to your participants. I didn't hear the first part of this conversation. But let me just say that obviously, India is the fastest growing aviation market in the world today. And even despite that, there are just 3% Indians that fly. So it's clear that, if we keep growing at this pace, there are hundreds of aircrafts which are on order by Indian Airlines. And clearly, we need a place to park them and we need a place to land them. So we need to work very aggressively at building out capacity. And this is something that we've been speaking to government about. Government is fully seized of this whole situation. But we need to find a way in which we can add capacity at the main airports like Mumbai and Delhi. And this has to be planned well in advance, because, what tends to happen is we run out of capacity, then we start planning, on what to do about the fact that we've run out of capacity. We need to make sure that the secondary airports come up to speed really quickly. I think the government's regional connectivity scheme should help in that, because it will operationalize several airports. We need to, on the air side, of course, we need to put in place the best technology that we can. We need to put in many more air traffic controllers, because clearly these guys are, short-staffed, overworked, not as well trained as we might want them to be. And obviously, we need to, as a civil aviation sector, negotiate with the defense authorities to make sure that we get as much space for civilian use, airspace for civilian use as we possibly can, get direct routings so that we can save both time and aviation turbine fuel and ease the burden on the consumers, because ultimately it's the consumer which is paying for all the expenses that are being incurred due to inefficiencies of the system.
So operationally, what has been the impact? Because we are given to understand that over the past year, the situation has gotten progressively worse as traffic has increased. It's a problem of plenty. So operationally, what has been the big challenge for companies like yours, Mr. Singh?
I think, the growth has been more than what most people expected, which is a good problem to have. But nevertheless, what that has done is that we've run out of space at major airports like Mumbai. There is absolutely no parking space available. There is no slot available, and that actually is very bad for a city like Mumbai, which the growth of the city itself is impacted when you can't land planes there, you can't get new flights into that airport. So in Delhi as well, we have a situation where there are 3 runways. Not too many airports in the world have 3 runways. So there is adequate capacity on the air side. It just has to be managed well. airports has run out of capacity on the terminal side. So, adding flights into main airports, and remember that, while tier 2, tier 3 towns are growing rapidly, and that's where future growth is going to be in India, in the first stage, what happens is that the tier 2, tier 3 towns actually first want to be connected to the main cities like Delhi and Mumbai, and to make that happen, there needs to be capacity at airports like Delhi, Mumbai. Also, Bangalore. I was there. As Mr. Sinha was just saying, there is a traffic situation, just as in Dholakua, there is a traffic situation heading to Bangalore airport. So all that needs to be looked at to make sure that there is seamless connectivity into the airports. Some of the issues that some of the initiatives that Mr. Sinha was mentioning, I think are really praiseworthy. We ourselves have done something in Hyderabad where we said, that anybody who walks into the airport automatically gets an electronic boarding card on his phone, and he can, take it and go all the way through to the plane. And it's already happening.
Okay.
We've been using that for the last several months. But we just need to work on all fronts, really, because the situation is pretty dire and pretty alarming. And growth,
Okay.
We don't want the civil aviation revolution to be impacted by lack of capacity.
No, absolutely, and that's the point that the minister was also making here on the show. Let me quickly get in Amber Dubey to comment also on what the flight path ahead should look like, and then I'll get Mr. Sinha to respond. Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, Shireen, thanks for having me. I think most of the things have already been said. We are happy that at least the ministry at this moment, the two worthy ministers and Secretary Chaubey and his team, they all are very closely working with the industry, which has never happened before. We've never had the ministry, the airlines, the airports, the ground handlers and the security staff talking together, which is happening now, which is a positive. The other positive I see out of this whole positive problem, as Ajay Singh mentioned, it's a happy problem, but a problem. The positive fallout is that I see great future for regional connectivity, because what is happening is that tier 2 airports like the Lucknow, Bhopals or the Chandigarhs or the Mohalis, they from all these places typically passengers fly into Delhi, which is not operating at its optimal level, and it has various challenges on the airspace, on the air side and in the terminal. And now what we'll have is people from the Lucknows and the Bhopals will be flying directly to their southern locations, say Hyderabad, Bangalore, Coimbatore or Chennai. So that's one positive, because there's just no way we can build capacity, as the minister also mentioned earlier. All these things take 3 to 4 years in a brownfield airport, and in a greenfield airport, right from conceptualizing an airport to land acquisition to the selector or the developer and to the commissioning, that's a 10 to 12 year cycle. So this problem is likely to continue. One of the few things that we've been suggesting is that on the land acquisition side, since the state governments in many places, it's a very politically emotive issue, and the fact that the returns are much later. So you actually go through a problem today, but the benefits are 10 years down the line. We are suggesting that you should allow private sector people to get into land acquisition also. Just like you've allowed private developers to develop and operate, you should even land acquisition can be handed over to private parties. Maybe they'll do it faster. And the last part is that in the terminal side, I think digital initiatives are very welcome. We have to go for a war footing kind of an ordering of X-ray machines, both for inline baggage checking. When passengers walk in with their checked-in baggage, they have to stand in a queue there, and later on for the security check, again we have the hand baggage check. We have to go for a war footing kind of almost like the thing we had in Kargil war. Shireen?
Okay, all right. I don't want to draw any analogy on the last comment, but Mr. Sinha, let me put all the comments that you've heard on the show so far, sir, and get you to respond to us. If I could ask you once again to take us through what you're hearing now, because I understand that DIAL, for instance, has submitted its master plan for 2016, where work has already started. But is there now a minute-by-minute, day-by-day sort of assessment of where things stand to ensure that the capacity that needs to be added on is added on time? Because there are also concerns about the Navi Mumbai airport, where the bid has just been won by GVK, and what happens then to the 2019 timeline. So if you can leave us with thoughts on immediate term, medium term, and then long term.
No, you're touching on exactly all the right topics, as have the other speakers before you, Shireen. We are working on this on a minute-by-minute basis, and we are working very closely with the entire ecosystem, because everybody has to pull together to be able to resolve this capacity crunch that we are facing right now and will continue to face over the next few years. So we are working together very, very closely in doing that. I will also add one more aspect which has not been touched on, but that is in some ways as important, which we are also working on, and that's as far as the regulation of the airports themselves are concerned and the financing of the airports. We have to have a regulatory framework that gives investors predictability and stability in terms of their cash flows and therefore their returns. And it's when we have that predictable framework, where we have that attractive framework for investors, because remember, this is something that is going to be financed by the private sector, not by the government, except for tier 3, tier 4 airports, which we will be doing, in certain instances, about 50 or so of those. But the vast majority of airports are going to have to be financed by the private sector, and so we have to make sure that we can attract both the equity investors as well as the debt investors to be able to fund this massive build out of airport capacity. As I said, we're looking at something in the range of about 3 lakh crores. So we are spending a lot of time with investors as well, with our regulators, to ensure that we have in place an attractive framework so that these airports will attract the necessary investment. We've had challenges in the past, and so we need to make sure we learn from that and that we put in place a very transparent, open and effective framework for regulation and investment as well. And that's both for the brownfield airport as well as for the greenfield airports, because one of the very important initiatives that we are pursuing as far as brownfield airports are concerned is looking to see whether we can outsource entire terminals themselves. And in fact, there are RFPs out right now for Jaipur and Ahmedabad to see whether we can outsource those terminals and bring in the private sector to ensure that we run those terminals as efficiently and as effectively as possible as well. So there also we are looking to take whatever bold and innovative steps we need to take. And then finally, on the financing side, we are also considering what we can do to monetize the land that Airports Authority of India has, so that that money can be plowed back into expansion and construction of new terminals, new airports, and what have you. So across the
I'll end with that, sir, because and I'm glad that we've been able to cover a lot of ground on this show. But let me end by asking you, sir, for a specific timeline as far as the land monetization of the Airports Authority land is concerned. This was a budget announcement. Has there been any forward movement? When can we see that take off?
So on this show, we've not only covered a lot of ground, we've covered a lot of airspace as well. Yes, indeed, we are working on amending the AAI Act, and we are looking to see what is the best way of ensuring that we can take advantage of the terrific land bank that Airports Authority of India has.
Will we see you move that amendment anytime soon, Mr. Sinha?
Well, there is a process of going through that, which is, of course, we develop the legal language to amend the Act. Then it goes for cabinet approval and so on, and that's really the process that we are in right now. The timing of when it comes into Parliament, that we will of course have to see depending on how the budget session unfolds.
And a final quick question, sir, because once again, there's a lot of talk in the market on the possibility of further relaxation as far as the airspace is concerned. You're saying that at this point in time, whatever has been done is adequate and there is no plan to liberalize defense airspace any further?
It's a continuous process, Shireen, and wherever we feel like there are capacity constraints, we look to see what are the best ways in which we can solve that.
All right, Mr. Sinha, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 and addressing several of the issues that have been raised here by our experts. This is, as we said, a high growth sector growing at about 25% year on year over the last 3 years. This is a good story for India, and all sides, all parties, all stakeholders must come together to ensure that this is a story that continues to fly high. Appreciate you joining us here, gentlemen, on the CNBC TV 18 special. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.